Hi guys, karibuni kwenye event yetu ya siku ya leo. Tupo na Victor na katika event yetu ya leo tunaenda kuzungumzia jinsi ya tunaweza kuzungumzia jinsi ya kuweza kuwekeza katika hisa. Tuko na mgeni wetu wa leo ni Victor. Karibu Victor.
Asante sana. Hapa I just want to sema kwamba hello everyone. Mtanisamehe kama mimi ni mgeni kwenye hii platform yenu, lakini nashukuru pia kwa Violet na Baraka mwenyewe kwa kunikaribisha kuongea nanyi, na naomba kujua kama mnanisikia vizuri.
Kwa upande wangu mimi nakusikia, sijui kwa wengine mmoja aweze open mic aweze kusema.
Unasikika?
Unasikika.
Okay, sawa, nashukuru sana kwa hiyo. Basi naona kwamba hapa I guess we can kind of like dive straight into it. Kwa msionifahamu, habari zenu, mimi hapa naitwa Victor Mutta, au mnaweza mkanifahamu mtandaoni kama Wi-Fi Money, although hapa niko kwenye mchakato wa kubadilisha jina, and in the near future might know me as the Money Guy TZ. Na Baraka amenikaribisha hapa kuongelea kuhusu swala la uwekezaji kwenye hisa, hasa nikitarget ambao mnafanya kazi online aka freelancers. Historia yangu kwa ufupi, mimi hapa nilianza kama freelancer kama nyie mwaka 2021. I started online freelancing as a copywriter, ambayo kipindi kile sikujua kama kuna mtu yote mwingine ambaye anafanya mambo ya freelancing hapa nchini, but I figured out on my own how to get started, and I did it full time from 2021 up until 2025. Na kwa kipindi hicho, kama nyewe wengi hapa mnavyo experience, kulipwa kwa USD, kwa pounds, kwa euros, na kuishi maisha ambao unatozwa gharama in Tanzanian shillings, life was very, very good. In my case, mimi hapa industry yangu kwa upande wa copywriting ilikuwa iko disrupted kutokana na AI, kusema hizi ChatGPT platforms na nini, unakuta kwamba clients wangu wote walishia kupunguza team zao, and katika kupunguza team zao I was also laid off, and that happened across all of my clients in like mid 2025 hapo. And when that happened, I was very, very thankful kwa sababu kipindi kizima nilikuwa nafanya kazi online, I was making sure that I was saving and investing at least 50% of my income. Na that has been a decision ambayo mimi hapa najishukuru sana kila siku kwa kufanya, because with the recent like stock market boom hapa, I have managed to almost slightly over triple my investment, like over 3x my investment, ambayo imenisaidia kukuza net worth yangu, na pia katika kuwekeza kwenye haya mambo nimeweza kujitengenezea passive income ambayo kwa kipindi hiki, which I'm not working online, imeweza kunisaidia sana, and that's what I hope to share with you guys today. So this is okay, it's recording in the corner, so just to be sure that is started. Now, I don't have like a PowerPoint presentation or like a fixed presentation that I'm going to walk you guys through. I have a few ideas in my head of things that I want to make sure that I discuss kwa kipindi hiki, lakini kama kuna mtu ambaye kutakuwa kuna kipindi baadaye ya question and answers, Q&A, which at that point I think that we can kind of hear whatever people want to know about, and then we go from there. So broadly speaking, you guys are familiar with what's called geographical arbitrage. Inawezekana hamjui hii neno, lakini ndio kitu ambacho mnachokifanya ikiwa kwamba mnatafuta fursa ya kuweza kufanya kazi za nje ya nchi, dealing with clients or services aimed in Europe, aimed in North America, US, Canada, UK, Italy, and those various kinds of places, ambao unakuta mara nyingi wanakulipa in USD. Na wengi wenu naamini kwamba mnaishi hapa Tanzania, maybe inaweza kawa Dar, inaweza kawa miji mingine. na gharama zenu mnalipa kwa Tanzanian shillings. That presents an opportunity whereby many of you have large margins of income, which might be very difficult if not impossible to get kwa ajira nyingi au nafasi za kazi nyingi hapa nchini. So if you're paid $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month, na gharama zako za maisha hapa ni kama $1 million, $2 million, $1 million, hata ukijitahidi sana $10 million, which is like 4,000 US. Bado utakuwa na margin nzuri hapo katikati ambao unaweza kufanya kitu cha maana nacho. A trap many people fall into when it comes from high income people is that a lot of that extra money wanatafuta mbinu mbalimbali kuweza kuitumia yote ishe. So unaweza utama mtu anaweza kuwa na kipato cha $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, $25 kwa mwezi, lakini bado ukiuliza mwisho wa mwaka umefanya nini nayo na hiyo pesa, which is like 150, 200, 300 million shillings, unakuta kwamba hawajafanya kitu cha maana, because a lot of the money they spend it going out, they spend buying cars, they spend it on traveling, wanaume spend it a lot on wanawake, na mwisho wa mwaka unakuta many of them do not have much to show for it, or if they do, they are severely misusing the opportunity that they have by having a high income and low living expenses. So the first thing that I want to encourage everyone here to do is to be paranoid. Na nikisema be paranoid na maana kwamba like uwe unaogopa nini? Because many of us here, I'm assuming, are online freelancers. Now, by the nature of the work that many of us do, it is not necessarily guaranteed kesho na kesho kutwa kwamba bado tutakuwa na kazi ambazo tunazozifanya, hasa tukiwa kwenye kipindi ambayo ya AI, with a lot of things are developing very, very quickly, like the AI that we had last year versus the AI that we have this year versus the AI that we'll have in next year, inakuwa threat kwa nafasi zingi za kazi. If you happen to be in a skill or something that is AI proof, wonderful, good for you. Lakini nasisitiza kwamba please operate under the assumption that you are not irreplaceable. Because when you live under that assumption, it gives you a healthy dose of fear, which allows you to live small. Nikisema live small, I have a policy that just try to live around 2 to 3 steps behind your income. Those of you who are developing your skills, making more money over time, becoming more valuable, networking, increasing, and so on, keep your living expenses, keep your costs like 2 or 3 steps behind your income. So let's say you start this year, you're making $1,000 a month. Gharama zako za maisha ni kama $400,000 kwa mwezi, which is like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, let's call it like 250 USD. Let's say by the end of the year, in June, you get a contract and then you're making $2,000 a month. People immediately raise their living expenses accordingly. I say, wait, end of the year, you get to $3,000 a month. Then now you can kind of like raise it up to $1,000 a month in your expenses. So keep your expenses 2 to 3 steps behind your income, which gives you a huge amount of margin to do 2 things. Number 1 is to save, and number 2 is to invest aggressively. And in case nobody told you guys, in case you did not know, any of you who are doing remote work and you're able to stay in the industry that you're working in for approximately 10 years, you have the potential to become a shilling billionaire. If you do not know, I am telling you right now, 10 years in this line of work, whatever it is that you're doing remotely, keep your expenses low, keep sharpening your skills, keep getting more clients. You have the opportunity to become a shilling billionaire within like 10 years. For some of you, it might be very, very quick and take 6 to 7 years. For some of you, it might be a little bit slow and take 12 to 14. But regardless, you all have the ability to get there. And I am saying this because I have spent about 4-ish years working online, saving and investing. And this is a recording. I won't tell you how far along I am. But I'm telling you that when I say $1 billion, that number is very, very feasible and doable and within sight. To get to that, you obviously, in many cases, will not be able to do it with just income alone. You need to do something that's going to multiply your money over time, which is investments. Hapa najua hii session ina focus sana kwenye hisa, and I will get to that in a moment. But I want to give you guys familiarity and awareness over all the different investment options available in Tanzania. Okay, so you have, just going to go down the list, you have fixed deposits, you have treasury bonds, corporate bonds as well, you have shares, you have mutual funds, you have real estate, you have crypto. And for those of you who have access to the US markets, you also have US markets and everything that's included over there. But generally speaking, it's going to be these 8 things that you can use to multiply your money. And automatically, before I go into this, kutakuwa kuna swali ambao watu wengi wanapata. I usually get this question, wanataka kuuliza. I get this question a lot from diaspora. I get this question sometimes, or some freelancers that I talk to, or people who have like incomes from outside of the country. Uwekeze huko nje, mara nyingi wakimaanisha Marekani, au uwekeze hapa Tanzania. Which one is better? Which one is more useful for you? I will say this. I don't think most of you make enough money to make investing in the US worth it. Maybe if there's one or two people in here who are earning like 6 figures USD a year, $100,000, $200,000 or something, crazy amounts like that, you can invest wherever you are, wherever you want, and still get a pretty good return, especially if you're living here. But if you are more on the lower end side, whereby you're looking at maybe like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, automatically the winner is just going to be here in Tanzania. Why? It's because in Tanzania you're able to get much stronger returns for your money, which gives you more potential to multiply it. Whereas if you're looking in the US markets, yes, you have more stability. Yes, you have the ability to make returns in USD, but they are generally lower. Hata mnaofuatilia content za personal finance huko nje, unaona kwamba people in the US are expecting to invest a minimum of like $500,000, to have like $500,000 minimum in assets, and most of that being from like their income over time, to be able to even start to afford any kind of like passive income, financial freedom, and so on. Wakati huku hapa in Tanzania, if you have $200,000, $300,000, like less than half that amount, depending on the kind of lifestyle that you want, you're financially independent and you're very, very wealthy. Okay. So I'm going to dive into each of these options briefly, muelewe each one. Then we're going to go into shares specifically after that. Option ya kwanza ya uwekezaji ambao ni fixed deposits. Fixed deposits are very, very easy and simple for people to understand. Unaenda benki, unasema mimi hapa ni fulani, my name is Rose, my name is Teresia, my name is Joyce, my name is Grace. I have this amount of money, which is like 50 million, 100 million, 250 million shillings, and you want to deposit it at that bank kwa kipindi cha mwaka huu mmoja. And then in that 1 year, utauliza benki watakupa nini? Because remember, the business of a bank is to take money from people who don't need it in the form of deposits and give it to people who do need it in the form of loans and charge interest from that. So if they're getting 15, 18, 20% interest on a loan here, they're willing to give you anywhere from like 7, 9, 10, 11, 15% interest on your money. So you go to a bank, you put in a fixed deposit, mnaifunga hiyo pesa kwa kipindi cha mwaka mmoja, mnakubaliana kwamba mnaweza mkalipwa riba 10%, tuseme kwa mfano, for your money. They take that money, they loan it out at 15, 20%, they give you 10%, the margin in between unakaa kwa upande wa benki, and that's how they benefit from that transaction. Now, pros and cons. Pros, it is a very fixed and reliable way to get money. You know that you're guaranteed for the next 1 year to get the interest rate that you agreed upon. Number two, it's very, very flexible in the sense that you can discuss payments with your banks however you want to get paid that interest. You can get paid on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, semi-annually, annually, every 2 months, every 6 weeks, whatever it is that you guys discuss with the bank, mnaweza mkalipwa kwa mwendo huo, which might be useful for anyone who has needs of like recurring income that has to be on a very, very specific schedule. Changamoto yake ni kwamba whatever rate you get at the bank, you're locking it in for 1 year, which means at the end of that 1 year, ukienda ikifika muda ku negotiate tena now, sawa, you can get a lower rate. If it's a lower rate, rates za sokoni zimeshuka, they will tell you. Kama ni rates za sokoni zimepanda, watakaa kimya, hawakuambii. So if you go in back there like, hey, I want to get my 10% again, watasema karibu sana, watakupa hivi, because they might know that the market rate might be 12%, and they're not gonna tell you that. So they're just gonna give you the rate to shazoea. But yeah, if you ukishajizoesha kwa kuishi off 10% of whatever the fixed deposit is paying you, and then next year drops to like 9 or 8, that is a problem. Another issue is that if you want to go and withdraw that money from the bank for whatever reason, maybe you have an emergency, maybe whatever happens, unakuta kwamba there will be penalties involved if you do for early withdrawal. That's kind of like the official thing. And then unofficially, unakuta kwamba I've had some clients tell me that they wameenda benki hawajanyimwa pesa zao, lakini wamezungushwa sana mpaka kuzipata, because I am told supposedly that bank managers wanabanwa sana ukiona kwamba mtu ame withdraw fixed deposit yake ya $300,000 $500,000. So they will try to discourage as much as possible people from withdrawing their money. But ukienda now ukikomaa nao and you are willing to go through that hassle, you can get your money back, of course. So that covers kind of like the basic pros and cons of how it works, pros and cons of like fixed deposits. We're going to move on to the next one, which is treasury bonds. Treasury bonds, hii ni kitu ambacho watu wengi umri kishaanza kusogea au wakiwa na majukumu mengi wanaipendaga sana kwa sababu ya hii income. Now, for most of you who are watching this, many of you are going to be on the younger side, meaning under 30, if not under 35. Number two, many of you should be earning a pretty decent income if you're earning online, because again, paid in dollars, living in shillings. So I don't expect there'll be much interest on this here, but for sake of completeness, nawafundisha what it is. So serikali ina matumizi mbalimbali. Mnajua kwamba serikali inalipia barabara, hospitali, madaktari, manesi, polisi, jeshi na matumizi mbalimbali kwa nchi yetu. Sasa that is all money that is going out. They need to have money that is coming in. Where's that money coming in from? Kila mtu anafahamu kuhusu swala la kodi, ikiwa VAT, pay as you earn, corporate income tax, excise duties, all these kinds of things hizo tozo mbalimbali za serikali. But there's also another thing ambayo watu wengi hawafahamu, ni kwamba serikali pia inakopa pesa. It borrows money from two main sources, ikiwa nje ya nchi na ndani ya nchi. Nje ya nchi ni kama hizi tunazofahamu kama hizi pesa za msaada za USAID, za China, za Jerumani, bla 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 hizo. Lakini pia kuna hizi hapa mikopo ya ndani au vyanzo vya ndani ambao tunafikia kwenye hapa treasury bond. Now kwenye treasury bond, tuseme mfano kwamba kila mwaka si serikali inaunda hiyo national budget ambayo inaelezea kwamba watatumia pesa hii kwenye kitu fulani, na hii kitu italipiwa na pesa kutoka kitu fulani. Sasa tuseme kwamba in the national budget there's like 100 billion shillings imepangiwa kujenga daraja kwa ajili ya kwa thamani ya kwa pesa za bilioni 100, sorry. What happens is oversimplified, like the treasurer at the government anapiga simu BOT anasema hey, anamwambia BOT, hey, we need 100 billion shillings kuweza kujenga daraja fulani, can you go raise that money? Sawa. BOT takes that call. After then what they do, BOT wana organize mnada, na kwenye hiyo mnada wanauza kitu ambacho kinaitwa hati fungani au treasury bond au treasury bill. Treasury bill ni kwa muda mfupi chini ya mwaka mmoja. Treasury bond ni kwa miaka 2, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay? And basically how that works is like, for example, let's say I'm going to sell you guys a piece of paper. I know you guys can't really see this much on the screen because it's very very small font. But let's say this piece of paper says it's worth 1 million shillings. And then when I sell this piece of paper, I'm going to sell it to you at a price. I can sell it to you at 1 million shillings flat. I can sell it to you at 950,000. I can sell it to you at 110,000. The price doesn't matter, but this, I'm going to sell it to you for that amount. And then what this piece of paper says, if you hold this piece of paper, it says that for the next X number of years, to say 10 years, you're going to be paid X percentage of interest, to say 13% interest, because that's the most recent treasury bond, I think. So umelipia karatasi milioni 1, kila mwaka nitakuwa nakupa 130,000 equal to 13%. Mwaka wa kwanza 130,000, mwaka wa pili 130,000, mwaka wa tatu 130,000, and so on until unafikia level ambayo baada ya kipindi cha miaka 10 ambao hii bond ina expire, wao unarudishia hii karatasi, mimi nakurudishia milioni 1 ambayo ni face value ya hii bond. Okay? Bonds, that's how they are, that's how they work. Unakuta kwamba the government uses that as a way to get income to fund various different projects. Na pia it can be used as a tool to manage monetary policy in the country, which is kind of outside of our scope to discuss hapa. And watu ambao wanapendaga hii mara nyingi ni watu wazima ambao sana kutoka kama wanataka reliable income kwa sababu wanaelekea kustaafu, au unakuta mara nyingi ni watu ambao pamoja na kuwa na watu wazima wana majukumu ambao wanahitaji pesa mara kwa mara kulipia. So you have people who are buying treasury bonds kwa ajili ya kulipa ada and things of that nature. That's treasury bonds kwa ufupi. Next up is shares. And shares, I want to speak to this at the end because that's what I want to spend most of our time discussing. Next up is mutual funds. Mutual funds hapa naweza mkaifahamu kama uwekezaji wa pamoja au mifuko ya uwekezaji wa pamoja, or collective investment schemes, or mutual funds, or money market accounts, all sorts of different names. Kiingereza na majina kama saba for the same thing. Kiswahili ni hapo mifuko ya uwekezaji wa pamoja. Hizi ni kama UTT mnazisikia, that's that. Zingine mnaweza kasikia kwa I trust, that's that. And mutual funds, the basic idea is that uwekezaji wa pamoja, kwamba mtu yote hapo in public can put their money into a fund. Tuseme kwamba I have this like, okay, this little multiple. Tuseme kwamba this is a fund and then I can collect money from different people here. So I could say Peter anaweza kuweka $1,000,000, Teresia anaweza kuweka $500,000, Violet anaweza kuweka $10,000,000, Joyce anaweza kuweka $50,000, Grace anaweza $500,000. All of that is going into the same pot. Now with this pot, there are two things. Number one, there's a fund manager ambaye is a human being, kazi yake ni kusimamia hii pot na kuweza kufikiria na kutafuta fursa mbalimbali kwenye soko, kuwekeza na kukuza hizi pesa. And the second thing is an investment policy. Every fund has a policy that the fund manager has to follow. Unakuta kwamba policy inaweza kusema kwamba hii fund tunawekeza kwenye fixed deposit na bonds tu. Unasema kwamba fund nyingine wanawekeza asilimia fulani hapa afu asilimia fulani kwenye shares. Nyingine wanasema kwamba tunawekeza kwenye investment opportunities ambazo ni za sharia compliant and halal and sukuk investing. Unakuta nyingine inaweza kusema kwamba tunawekeza kwenye items ambazo zinalipa kwa USD dollar tu, okay? Different funds for different goals and different purposes depending on the policy. Unachotaji kuelewa ni kwamba fund manager ana kazi moja ya kwenda kuchukua kuinvest hizi pesa na kuziangalia fursa zilizopo sokoni, which, to be clear, there is no opportunity in the market that these funds have that you can't buy yourself. It's just a difference in terms of capital and knowledge. So yeye anaangalia kwenye soko, anatafuta fursa zilizopo, anawekeza hizi pesa to grow this pot of money, have it become bigger and bigger after year. And why do they want to do this? This service is not free. What do they get out of it? What they get out of it is that they get to charge a certain percentage of the money that is in this basket or in this fund. So generally it floats at around 1%. So nakuta kwamba with the 1% charge, if the fund is 100 billion shillings, 1% yao ni 1 billion. Next year, they want to grow this fund into, for example, 150 billion shillings. 1% ya hapo inakuwa 1.5 billion and they make more money that way. So unakuta kwamba motivation zenu, you want to make more money, they want to make more money because they can charge that 1% that they charge grows compared to that. It can be higher than 1%, it can be lower than 1%. 1% is just an easy round figure for covering most of them. That is mutual funds. The next option is real estate. Real estate sitaongelea sana because I don't have much money huko. You can do Airbnb, you can do long-term rentals, you can do short-term rentals, you can do commercial property, you can do all sorts of things. That needs a lot of capital investment, which I'm assuming most of you might not have it, but some of you who are probably liquid that way can look and go into that. You're looking at anywhere from 50 million to pretty much the sky is the limit, 2, 3, 4, 5 billion shillings, for depending on what you want to build and do. I had a conversation with someone who builds hotels, and he told me that it takes about 4 billion shillings for a hotel to be built. So if you have that kind of money, you can talk to other experts and deal with that sort of thing. But real estate in general is very, very expensive, but can be very lucrative depending on what you do. Of course, the problem is that there's no transparency and you can find out just very small differences in location, or how you use the location can have massive differences in terms of income. So always consult with an expert who knows your area and knows the type of thing that you want to do. For crypto, which is the last thing before we go back to shares and cover that in more detail, crypto is, you have your Bitcoins, your Ethereums, your Solanas, your and all these various like shit coins that they call them. I didn't make that name up, that's what they're called. very, very volatile, very, very risky. You really need to know what you're doing. Accessing for those platforms and whatever is not something that I teach. There are other people online who talk more about that. People who come to mind is like Nikki Rabbit, as well as Gabby Loves Tech. They tend to talk about crypto, and they can give you advice and input on how to get started in that specific area. Let's go to the thing that I enjoy talking about, that I have made a large majority of my wealth in, that I have over 90% of my money in, which is shares. Now, in simple terms, in simple language, hisa ni biashara, biashara ni hisa. The only difference between, or rather let's say this way, ambayo mmefanya process ya kuweza kusajili kampuni BRELA, mnatambua kwamba mkienda huko mnahitaji kusubmit documents kadhaa, mojawapo nadhani ni articles of association. I think it might be one of that. And then kwenye articles of association, assuming I have the correct document in mind, unahitaji kuelezea umiliki wa kampuni imegawanyika vipi. So if you have you and your brother, or you and your sister, or you and your best friend, or whatever starting this company, you would have half of the company, they would have half of the company. That representation has to be outlined in the form of shares au hisa za kampuni. Now, the number doesn't matter. You can pick any number that you want. You can pick 100, you can pick 1,000, you can pick 1,000,000, you can pick 1,000,000,000, whatever. The number doesn't really matter much. What they care about is how many shares each person owns. So if you have a company, for simplicity's sake, that has 100 shares, you have 50, your best friend has 50, both of you own 50 out of 100 shares, which means you own half the company each. Now, tuseme kwamba mmekuza biashara yenu, mnataka, things are going very, very well, and you want to expand into, let's say, a foreign country. We're in Tanzania, assuming that you want to expand into Kenya and Uganda for your business. You might look into various different ways to fund that project. Naweza ngasema kwamba mkatumia profits za biashara that you've saved up over time to fund the expansion into those different countries. That's an option. Mnaweza ngasema kwamba mnatumia mikopo, mnaenda benki, au you go to a private individual, mnakopesha hiyo hela, mnaenda mnafanya biashara, mnafanya hiyo expansion, alafu kadri inavyozalisha faida mnarejesha hiyo mkopo, mnaenda hivyo. Option ya tatu pia, mnaweza mkafanya kitu ambacho kinaitwa kuuza hisa, au ambayo inaitwa initial public offering. Tuseme kwa mfano, mimi hapa Victor and my best friend Paul, kwa mfano, I own 50 shares, he owns 50 shares. We want to expand this business. So what we can do is that we can do what's called an IPO, an initial public offering. Tunaenda kwenye soko la hisa, ambao kuna process ya kuweza kupitia hivyo. And tunasema kwamba tunauza hisa 10 each, which we're selling 20% of the company, because I sell 10, he sells 10, that's 10 out of 20 out of 100, that's 20% of the company. Tunauza hisa kwenye soko la hisa. Then once we sell those shares, we get the capital from selling those shares, after tunaenda kufanya hiyo project expansion au kufanya, alafu nyie sasa kwenye soko la hisa ndio mnaona kwamba hizo hisa mnaweza mkanunua na kuuza. Kwa hiyo mkinunua hisa kwa mfano za CRDB, za NMB, za TBL, za TCC, za TPCC, whatever other company, hamnunui hisa from the original people who owned the company. You're buying those shares from another person who owns those shares, ambaye alinunua baada ya IPO. So mnakuta kama mkiuza nunua hisa, mnauziana na kununua hisa nyewe wenyewe kwa wenyewe, kampuni haihusiki hapo tena. Sasa, who is hisa for? That's what they are, that's how they're made, that's how we get to the stock market. Who are shares for? Shares, I highly recommend it for people who are on the younger side, which I will define for the purposes of this discussion, meaning anyone under 35, even under 40. Ikiwa kwamba, why do you want to invest in shares? Kwa sababu hisa ni biashara, biashara ni hisa. Na mnafahamu kwamba hamna kitu kinachoweza kutengeneza matajiri dunia hii kama biashara. Ukiangalia in the list of like 400 richest Americans, and you exclude the people who inherited their wealth, you find out that about something like 75% of them are people who started a business, and then the remaining 25% are like investors, people who bought pieces of a business. So that is a sign that businesses are by far the best wealth building tool in the world. na ikiwezekana kwamba kama wewe utashindwa kuanzisha biashara na kuikuza iwe kitu kikubwa, unaweza ukasema kwamba ukachukua kipato chako from online freelancing, from formal employment, wherever you're getting your money, na ununue umiliki katika kampuni kubwa ambayo inafanya vizuri. So that way you don't just become a freelancer, you don't just become an employee, you become a business owner by buying shares of someone else's business if you do not want to start your own, or in some cases, in many cases, unakuta kwamba tayari una biashara yako mwenyewe, lakini biashara yako inaweza kawa kwamba it cannot really compare to some of these larger companies, so there's still an opportunity for you to buy shares of these larger companies. Niwaambie kwamba I have people that I know wafanya biashara wakubwa, people who are shilling billionaires, who have amounts of like 1, 2, 5, 10 billion shillings that they've made from their business, na bado hao wanaona maana na wananufaika kwenye kuingiza pesa kwenye hisa. Kwa hiyo wewe unavyosema kwamba I want to do my own thing, mambo ya hisa ilipe, mambo ya hisa nini, jamani, hivi utabishana na tajiri ambaye anapeleka mtaji kiasi huko kwenye hisa wakati ana biashara ambayo inazalisha pesa za kiasi hicho? What do they see? What are they chasing there that you unaona kwamba it's not hainihusu? Na wengine kama mjaanza kusema kwamba hisa ni ya matajiri au nini, jamani, no. Hiyo malalamiko hayo naweza kusikia kwa watu wengine ambao wako nje ya community, lakini those of you who work online, you're freelancers, you're being paid in USD. So these shares that you're thinking about, or you're thinking that they're too expensive, you can start buying these shares for the cost of $10, $20, $30, $50. Sasa if you're being paid $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a month, utaniambia kwamba huna $10, $20, $50 kwa mwezi kuwekeza. That's just a lie. I'm not gonna hear any of those complaints from you guys. Kila mtu hapa na hela kununua hisa. Nje hapa ningeweza kusikiliza na kuongelea kitu zaidi, kwa sababu you're dealing with people who are making 300,000, 500,000 shillings a month, but in here, paid in dollars, I'm not hearing any of that nonsense. You have money to invest. The only thing that you might be missing is that the only thing that you might think you have is actually just excuses about not being able to get into the thing. So what are the benefits? Why do people invest in shares? And even if you're young, why should you put most of your money in there? Again, kama nilivyosema, biashara is one of the best ways to build wealth in the world. You don't have to start your own business. You can buy pieces of a big profitable business, many of them being sold in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And unakuta faida unazopata ni faida aina mbili. Ya kwanza ni capital gain. Capital gain kwa ufupi au kwa lugha nyepesi ni kwamba unanunua kitu cha shilingi 100, unaishia baada ya miaka kadhaa au miezi kadhaa kuuza kwa shilingi 300, 400, 500. If you have forex traders or crypto traders or whatever in the community here, wanaelewa what I mean. You buy something at a lower price, you sell it at a higher price. Hisa zina tabia, ukichagua kampuni sahihi, nasisitiza hiyo, ukichagua kampuni sahihi, hisa zina tabia kupanda bei over time, kiasi kwamba kila hela unayowekeza leo, kila $10, $50, $100 unayowekeza leo has the potential to grow to become $30, $50, $100, $500, $1,000 in the future if you buy in good companies and wait. So faida moja hapo ni capital gains, kuweza kukuza mtaji wako. Faida ya pili ni kitu ambacho kinaitwa gawio au dividends. Those of you who have been involved in the financial space for the last maybe 2 or 3 years, mshawahi kusikia hii neno. Watu wanasema kipindi cha gawio inakuja. You might see some screenshots and some stuff online. Mtu anapost kwamba amepokea 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 100 million shillings in terms of dividend paid from these companies. Let me just take a sip of water and then I can explain what dividends are. So, dividends. Kampuni ikifanya vizuri na ikazalisha faida kubwa, wanaweza kuamua kwamba hii faida asilimia kadhaa tuwalipe wanahisa aka wamiliki wa hii kampuni hii faida. In the same way, kama una biashara yako, umefanya biashara kwa kipindi cha mwaka mmoja, umezalisha profit ya milioni 100, unaweza kusema kwamba milioni 20 nitachukua mimi hapa kama fanya biashara, alafu milioni 80 nitarudisha kwenye biashara yenyewe ili kuendelea kuuza mtaji wa biashara. The same way many of these public companies have policies and they have a habit of doing that. Not every company does it, but the companies that do it are very popular and very, very well known. Now, the idea is that ukinunua hisa za hizi kampuni, ikifika kipindi cha gawio, watatangaza kila gawio unapokea shilingi ngapi. So you might see online like a company is paying a dividend of like 50 shillings per share, or 100 shillings per share, or 800 shillings per share, or 300 shillings per share. Okay, hapo sasa ukichukua hiyo dividend per share ukimultiply by idadi ya hisa ulizonazo, unaweza kujua kwamba gawio yako ni kiasi gani. Sasa hiyo gawio, naomba nikwambie kwamba this is money that you did not have to put in active time or effort for. Ndio biashara inalipa, ndio ajira inalipa, ndio freelancing inalipa, lakini ukishapata hizo pesa ukiziweka kwenye kampuni sahihi, kwenye soko la hisa, kila mwaka inaweza kupa dividend, na hiyo dividend inaweza inaongezeka mwaka kwa mwaka kadri biashara inavyozidi kufanya vizuri. Turudi mfano wetu, 100 million shillings in profit, 20 for yourself, 80 for the business. If your company grows to become 500 million shillings in profit, you can take 100 for yourself and put 400 back in the business, maintain the same 20%, 80% ratio. So if you buy a company that performs well year over year, then your dividend also has potential to grow year over year. And this is like almost as passive as income gets, because you did not run the business, you did not open the shop, you did not talk to customers, you just bought shares and you're just waiting for the profits to come to you as a shareholder. Na mkinunua hisa kwenye kampuni, tambua kwamba everyone from the board to the CEO mpaka mtu ambaye yuko chini kabisa at the bottom, again sisemi kwa ubaya kwamba na dharau hizi vyeo, lakini nasema kwamba at the bottom, ikiwa kwamba kuanzia paka mtu ambao ni mlinzi wa pale getini mbele, kuanzia mtu ambaye anafanya kusafisha kazi ofisini, everyone from the top of the company structure to the bottom of the company structure is working to help make what? Profit for who? You, the shareholder. So choose good companies. You have basically an entire army of people who are working towards bringing you profit over time, and that's the second benefit of investing in shares. Now, before I kind of open things up to questions, I have a couple of talking points that I want to touch upon before we get to hearing you guys and the questions that you want and discussing whatever it is that you want to hear. Number one, price tells you nothing about a company. Najua kipindi hiki hapa, over the last kind of like 4 months, you've been hearing, probably seeing headlines kwamba hisa hii hapa imeongezeka bei, hii hapa imefika bei fulani, imefika bei fulani, imefika bei fulani. Naomba niwaambie kwamba price tells you nothing about a stock. It tells you nothing about that business. It is just simply information about the market, and the market can be following fundamentals. Ni kwa maana kwamba market inaweza kaendana na uhalisia wa biashara, au market inaweza kuendana na market forces, which is like FOMO, fear of missing out, which is like hype, which for those of you who are in crypto, it's the similar psychology behind pump and dump schemes. Again, I'm not saying there's a pump and dump scheme happening in the soko la hisa. Don't misunderstand me, don't quote me on that kama Victor alisema hivyo. No. But I'm saying that in the same way, whereby in these schemes people are working to hype and build up the price of the stock ili waweze kuuza, watoe pesa zao, that can be a driving force behind some of the share prices going up as quickly as they are. People buying, expecting that they can sell it to the next person at a higher price and get their money out. Okay. Don't be bothered by prices. Make sure you go into the next point that I'm talking about, which is you learn how to analyze companies. Please learn how to analyze companies. Kwa sababu nikupe mfano, wewe ukiwa unasema kwamba unataka kuwekeza kwenye ardhi, ni kitu ambacho kila mtu anaelewa. Kuwekeza kwenye ardhi, unaambiwa kwamba usinunue kiwanja bila kwenda kuiona na kuitembelea, na vile vile ukiweza uende utembelee kipindi cha mvua, uone kama ni tambarare, kama maji yanakaa pale, kama tope, kama nini, hali ya barabara kufika, all that sort of stuff. Because ukinunua kiwanja bila kwenda kupaona, umeliwa. Yani umepigwa a lot of times. Vile vile ukinunua hisa bila kutembelea hicho kiwanja, kwa maana kwamba kuelewa hiyo kampuni hiyo ikoje na kuanalyze financials zake, kuna uwezekano mkubwa sana wewe utaishia kupigwa kwenye pesa zako. Alafu ndo baada ya hapo unaona mtu anakimbilia mtandaoni anasema kwamba hisa ni utapeli, hisa is a scam, hisa nini. Did you know what you are doing? Au umejaribu kununua kiwanja bila kutembelea afu unashangaa kwa nini iko sehemu mbaya? food for thought. Learn to analyze companies, or if you cannot have the time to analyze companies, speak to people who are trusted experts who do it. Na kwenye hii kitu, I'm going to say something anyone who's watched these videos this far is not going to like. Don't look at credentials per se. I will tell you, if you want to learn something, learn from the people who are doing it. Ukitaka kujifunza biashara, tafuta mtu ambaye anafanya biashara. Ukitaka kujifunza fani fulani, tafuta mtu anayefanya hiyo fani ili aweze kukufundisha. In the same way when it comes to this, don't be moved just by credentials. Kwamba mtu ana title fulani, sitataja hizo titles, mtu ana title fulani na title fulani na title fulani. Okay? Learn from people who are actually doing it. Learn from the people who are actually living it. That way you can get better quality advice, because I'll be honest, I have had some people come to me with some saying expert flani flani, mwenye certification flani flani, au mwenye cheo flani flani, kaniambia nifanye hivi, and I am like, that is that is very interesting perspective, because I do this thing, I live this thing, I talk about this thing, I talk to other people about this thing, I have a tab open in my browser looking at charts of this thing. I won't say I know everything, but when you talk to someone who does the thing practically in the field, you can get more insights than someone who just knows about it in theory ambao au kama vile walivyosomea shuleni. Again, not to discount those certifications, those educational credentials and so on, but those are not enough. You need to talk to someone who is also doing it. Then the third thing that I need you guys to understand is have a long-term perspective. Many of you, again, just by the nature of the freelancing industry in this country, many of you are young. When I say that, you might wonder, wait, how old is this guy? I'm 32 years old. Okay. Not as old as you think I am when I'm saying this, but I'm saying that you have the benefit of time. Okay. Where are you rushing off to? You see, the thing is, let me give you like an interesting statistic to kind of give you an idea of what the power of time could do. Okay. Warren Buffett, wealthiest investor in the world, is retiring. I think he's already retired from managing his investment company. And then he's pretty old. He'll pass on soon, probably 2 to 3 years from now. People will forget and not know who he is. But for now, those of you might know him as the wealthiest investor in the world. I think he's over 100 and something billion dollars. The numbers change all the time. Anyway, he's the wealthiest investor in the world. And imagine if I told you that 99, I think 0.7% of the money that he has, of all those billions, came after his 60th birthday. Warren Buffett has been investing from the age of 11. And if he stopped at the age of 60, he'd have something like $300 million, which is a lot of money, sure, but we wouldn't know his name today. The reason we know his name today is because he put this in for a very, very long time. Kiasi kwamba from 11 to 60, he probably had $300 million. From 60 up until 94, 95, which is head right now, he turned that 300 million into 100 and something billion. So please have a long-term perspective. And for you guys, kwa soko letu la hapa, I am not asking you to wait 30 years. I am not asking you to wait 20 years. I am asking you to please be consistent for 5 to 7 years, and then have patience of about 3, 4, 5 more years after that. Personally, I'm about four years in my investing journey, 5 years in my personal finance journey as a whole. And the progress that I've gotten so far, if you told me like 4 years ago I'd get this far, I'm surprised. And I am at this stage, I'm very curious to see how things will go 5 years from now when I finally finish my like full 10-year term. And for you guys who are, the earlier you can start, I know some people getting into remote freelancing are people like 20, 23, 25. By the time you're like 35 or 32 or like my age or whatever, you're done. You already got your investments, a lot of money. I'm not going to make specific figures because it's being recorded, but you're going to have a lot of money such that you're not going to worry about money for the rest of your life pretty much. Okay. And then you can pretty much enjoy whatever freelancing income you have, knowing that you already got to build a base of assets and passive income that'll support you and your future family and generations to come. Okay. So that's number 3, have a long-term perspective. Basi kwa sasa, Nomba, I open the floor for anyone who has any questions. I know Upper Rose, you've had your hand raised for pretty much the entire time. I don't know if you had a question or that's like a misclick or whatever. But if anyone has any questions or anything that they would like to ask, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can write it in the chat. I want to take 5 questions and then I'll answer those 5 after tunaenda kwa mfumo huo. Karibuni.
Okay, mimi nilikuwa na swali Victor. Je, ni bora kununua hisa nyingi kwa za kampuni moja au ni bora kuzigawanya kwenye kampuni nyingi tofauti?
Okay, ngoja niandike hiyo swali. Is it better to concentrate on one company or buy many different companies? I guess one of the questions naturally people have is, how do I start buying shares? Buying shares, can you explain the process? Hiyo nitaandika hapa mimi, and I'll answer that as well.
Hi.
Hello, karibu.
Yes, asante. Tunashukuru sana kwa presentation yako ambayo ni nzuri, na swali langu litajikita zaidi kwenye eneo ambalo umelielezea na pia umekuwa na experience kwa muda mrefu. So vijana wengi tunakuwa na idea ya kuwekeza especially kwenye hisa, lakini mtu anakuwa hajui pa kuanzia. Na kwa wenzetu tumekuwa tukiona kuna financial analyst ambaye kabla ya kuinvest hela zako unaenda unaongea naye, anakushauri, kukushawishi ni wapi uwekeze hela zako. Je, kwa hapa Tanzania ni kitu gani kijana anaweza kufanya akasaidiwa na mtu ambaye tayari alishauona mwanga ama analijua soko, ili aweze kwenda sehemu sahihi kuwekeza kile ambacho anataka kuwekeza? Asante.
Okay, nimeandika swali hapo. Naona Peter umeandika kwenye chat na pia umenyosha mkono. So I don't know which one you want to do. Okay, nisome tu swali yake hapo. Emmanuel alianza kuuliza nini criteria za kuangalia muda wa kuchagua kampuni ya kununua hisa. Hapa Rose, kama nimeelewa swali yake, ni kwamba hapa Tanzania mtu anaweza kufanyaje ili uweze kupata advice vizuri akiwa anaanza uwekezaji. Hapa Peter swali yake ameandika, ukitaka kufanya analysis ya kampuni ni vitu gani muhimu vya kuzingatia ili analysis zako ziwe vizuri? Okay, let me copy paste that. I think inafanana na swali ya Emmanuel hapo. Teresia akasema kuna kipindi watu hawauzi ama kununua hisa. Je, huko mbeleni inawezekana ukawa una hisa nyingi unataka kuuza, hakuna wanunuaji ama wauzaji? Okay. Ndio. Sawa. Hapo naona Alice, nani ulitangulia kunyosha mkono, karibu. Alice? Okay, naona yuko mbali. Joyce?
So hi Victor, thank you. Kitu ambacho nilitaka kuuliza nimekusikia mwanzoni kabisa pale ulikuwa unasema shares zikishauzwa kwenye IPO pale huwa kampuni wanachukua ile pesa wanaenda kufanyia biashara. So nilikuwa kama na maswali mawili kwa sababu hii ni concept mpya ambayo nimeicapture leo, though nawekeza baadhi ya sehemu kwenye DSE. Inakuwaje sisi tunaitwa wamiliki wa kampuni wakati kampuni imeshachukua ile hela? Alafu inakuwaje sisi tunapata benefit wakati kampuni ilishachukua ile hela and all the stuff. Yani sielewi huu mwingiliano wa kwamba kampuni walishauza hisa kwenye IPO, wakachukua zile pesa wanazifanyia kazi. Inakuwa vipi sasa tunakuwa tunaingiliana kama tunaitwa wanahisa tena? So I think kama umenielewa.
Nimeandika hapa, nitajaribu kujibu swali yako. Kama sijaelewa utanisaisha after I get to it. Sawa?
Thank you.
Okay, karibu sana. Hapa kwenye chat naona kwamba hamna mtu wa type sasa hivi na haya maswali nimeandika. Okay. Kwa hiyo tuende kwenye swali ya kwanza. Is it better to concentrate on one company or buy many different companies? There are two answers to this. The answer number one is what comes from experience and from seeing other people enter the market and the mistakes that many people make. Answer number two is a more sophisticated answer kwa watu ambao wenye uelewa, and I'll get to that. Answer number one, yes, it is better to concentrate on one company for two main reasons. Number one, many people who are starting out into buying shares do not have large amounts of capital. Nikisema large amounts of capital, naongelea watu ambao mara nyingi wakianza kununua hisa wanaanza kwa bei chini ya milioni 50. So unakuta mtu anaanza na 100,000, 500,000, 800,000, milioni 2, milioni 5, milioni 10. Sawa? In terms of like lump sum amounts. Or if it's like for regular recurring income, unakuta kama anawekeza kama 200,000 kwa mwezi, 5 kwa mwezi, milioni 3 kwa mwezi, milioni 7 kwa mwezi. Once you're getting close to 10, yes, you have some options for diversification. Or maybe you have a lump sum that's getting 50 million and above. Yes, you can consider diversification. But for many people starting out, ambao wakiwa na mtaji mdogo, I often push them to concentrate on one company. Which company? That's not the purposes of this call. That one company, the reason being is that when you're starting out and you have a small amount of capital, you want to grow your capital. Sawa. And you can grow that by putting it in one company that has aggressive growth to multiply that money over time. If you're someone who's coming in with a large amount of capital, then there we can kind of like have to sit down and discuss which companies you buy, which companies this. And I don't want to speak it to individual companies because it's being recorded. And I don't want someone who's watching this video on YouTube or wherever it'll be 7 months, 2 years down the line to say, oh, Victor alisema kampuni flani, because I don't know what the situation will be 7 months to 2 years down the line. Anything that I might recommend today might become a bad recommendation at that point in time, so I'm not going to name specific companies. But yeah, pick one company, put your money in there to aggressively grow it and build your capital over time. Kwa sababu ukiwa na mtaji mdogo, ukiwa unaweka kwenye kampuni mbalimbali, ni kama vile tuseme kwamba mimi hapa na chupa moja ya maji ambayo ni lita 1, alafu like Victor, naomba nisaidie unipe ndoo 3 ya kuweka hii maji. You don't look for 3 buckets to carry half a liter of water. Okay? You take that one bucket, unajaza kidogo. Bucket ikianza kujaa, unatafuta kampuni nyingine cha pili au ya tatu kwenda kuwekeza. If you're someone ambao una maji mengi, kwa mfano kama una lita 100, lita 200, alafu nasema nitafutie ndoo mbalimbali kuweza kuwekea, that makes sense. But if you're someone with small capital, start with that. Second reason, beginners get distracted very easily. Kwa hiyo unakuta kwamba mtu ukimwambia kwamba wekeza hapa na hapa, they will come back to you 2 days later asking, nishasikia kuhusu kitu hapa, niweke hela hapa. 3 days later, nishasikia kuhusu kitu, niweke hela hapa. Kwa hiyo unakuta mtu yuko kwenye mazingira fulani kwamba ana 100,000 kwenye mutual fund A, ana 300,000 kwenye mutual fund B, ana 100,000 kwenye vikoba A, ana 200,000 kwenye vikoba ya pili, ana 300,000 kwenye hisa kampuni A, ana 500,000 kwenye hisa kampuni B, ana 150,000 kwenye hisa kampuni C, ana 100,000 kwenye hisa kampuni E. Yani amegawanya pesa zake yani sehemu 10-12 tofauti, akifikiria kwamba anafanya diversification, which kusema kweli are just wasting their time and their money. Because okay, let's say your money doubles kwenye kampuni A, umeweka 100,000 imekuwa 200,000. Does that change your life? Not really in many cases. Au umesema kwamba okay, Victor, I diversify because I'm scared of losing money. Umeweka 100,000 kwenye kampuni yenye scared of losing 100,000. Weka chini ya godoro. And honestly, this is something that one of my mentors says, and I like it because he says, "Ona wasiwasi juu ya 500,000, milioni 1, milioni 2. My brother, my sister, you do not have money to lose. Money to lose starts at tens of millions. Generally, I like to draw the line at like 50 million shillings. You have 50 million shillings in something, you have money to lose. Otherwise, in many cases, with you guys being young, in many cases, you guys being online freelancers who are being paid in USD, less than 50 million, you don't have money to lose. So trying to diversify that money and trying to find various different things you can put into, for beginners, generally the best thing is to concentrate. That's the practical answer. The answer, if you are a bit more advanced, and I will tell you this, if you have to ask or wonder if you're advanced, you're not advanced. If I ask you what your portfolio is and what you've been doing for the last 2 years and you don't have an answer, you are not advanced. If I ask you umelipia darasa lipi, umeenda kusoma kwa nani, umesoma vitabu vipi, and you don't have answers, you're not advanced. But let's say you are. There is this idea of you want to have money spread out in different companies because you have something to lose. Au pia unaweka pesa kwamba una pesa nyingi hapa, unachukua some capital from this unaweka hapa, unategesha because umeona kwamba hiki kitu kina potential ya kuweza kuwa na growth haraka. You grow your money quickly, you take it out, you put it here. In that case, if you know what you're doing, you can switch to different strategies, including diversification. Personally, because I have a lot of money to lose, okay, I've divided my portfolio into 3 different companies, such that I do this for peace of mind because I don't have a very high risk appetite. There's some people who, and honestly, this like a little bit scares me a little bit because some people have this mentality. Some people can have their entire portfolio, hundreds of millions of shillings in one company, and that's it. And they're comfortable with that. I am not built that way. I like to, napenda kupata usingizi usiku, kwa maana kwamba I split my money into 3 different companies, such that I know huyu akifeli kuna huyu akifeli kuna huyu akifanya vibaya kuna huyu, you know, that kind of idea. So if you're in the beginner starting out, pick one company, concentrate, build out your capital. If you have a large amount of capital, meaning 50 million shillings plus, either as a lump sum, or you're making close to 10 million shillings a month that you can invest, you might consider diversification. If you know what you're doing, in essence, you have either a financial consultant, financial educator, financial whatever, who knows what they're doing, and amekaa na wewe anaweza kuadvise portfolio yako uwekeje. And that's that answer. So huyu ambaye aliuliza, is it better to concentrate on one company or buy many different companies? Nimejibu swali yako before I move on to the next one. I think that was Violet.
Yes, umenijibu.
Okay, sawa. Mimi hapa, I don't like short answers to questions. I'll give you very long detailed answers uelewe vizuri, na naweza kujibu hata maswali 3-4 ambao kufikiria kuuliza kwa kujibu hiyo moja. This one, the next one ambao nimeandika mimi, ambao many people have. How do I start buying shares? Can you explain the process? Kununua hisa, kuna mobile app ambayo inaitwa DSE Hisa Kiganjani. DSE Hisa Kiganjani. I highly recommend you go to the website, which is dse.co.tz. Ukienda pale, they'll have links to the apps to make sure that you get the right one, because I can't see your screen, because I can't see the icon, I can't see whatever. dse.co.tz is the website. Go there, find at the bottom of the page links for download on Play Store, download on App Store. You'll get the apps that way. Utafanya process ya usajili, kwa maana kwamba utaingiza NIDA namba yako. Na kama huna NIDA, huwezi kuaccess hii platform ya mobile app automatically. Unaingiza NIDA yako, alafu itakuuliza some security questions, utachagua broker. Siwezi kushauri broker gani uchague, because broker services really change in customer service over time. The broker that I'm happy with for the last 2 years, ameanza kuwa msumbufu kidogo, so I'm trying to change brokers. Likewise, I can't recommend something because I might be watching this 3 years in the future, and then the broker that I talk about right now is horrible. And like, Victor, why'd you get me to these people? Choose whatever on the list you want. It doesn't matter who you choose, they all do the same thing. Choose whoever you want. Tofauti yao ni customer service, which you're gonna have to find out from from practical experience, unfortunately. Choose whichever broker you want, proceed. Your account should be active anywhere from like 1 hour during a business day if the DSC systems are working. If the DSC systems are not working, na nyie wetu mnafahamu kwamba kwa upande wa IT, even though it's 2026, our country has a long way to go. That is especially true for the DSC app. If the system is not working, you might need to reach out to a broker. Go to the DSC website. It has a list of brokers on there. You can search Google brokers, Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. The first page results, it gave you all the brokers out there. Tafuta namba zao za simu ambao wa broker unayetaka, piga simu. Au ukiweza kutembelea ofisini zao, sawa. And then you will open that account, assuming the app or whatever the platform is buggy, whether upati OTP, whether it's just prepare yourself for this headache, guys. It's there. Alafu ukisha kuwa set up in the app, unaweza sasa kuingia kuweza kununua hisa za kampuni mbalimbali, ambaye narudia tena, please either learn how to analyze companies on your own. Darasa za kufanya hizo hapo ziko Instagram, zinapatikana tu if you follow many different financial educators, au unaweza ukaishia kulipia session kukaa na mtu ambaye, au kama if you have a friend who does investing is pretty good and they've gotten good results out of it, you can talk to that person. They can help you out in terms of which companies to pick. Uende hivyo. Tuende kwenye swali inayofuata. Nini criteria za kuangalia muda wa kuchagua kampuni ya kununua hisa? Ukitaka kufanya analysis ya, afu kuna swali ya mtu mwingine ambayo inafanana na hiyo. Ukitaka kufanya analysis ya kampuni, vitu gani muhimu ya kuzingatia ili analysis zako ziwe vizuri? So, whenever you're buying shares of a company, there's generally 3 forms of analysis that you do. And if you're taking notes, it's probably the thing that you can start writing right now. Number 1 is macroeconomic analysis. Ikiwa ni kuelewa hali ya uchumi ilivyo ya hiyo nchi ambao unataka kuwekeza, kwa maana kwamba if you want to invest in the Tanzanian stock market, you have to understand the Tanzanian economy. Step ya pili, unaingia kwenye sector analysis, which you can kind of falls under macroeconomic. Na point ya 3 ni analyzing kampuni husika, kwa maana kwamba the process of analyzing a company ambayo ni manufacturing ni tofauti na process ya kuanalyze company ambayo ni banking, ni tofauti na kuanalyze company ambayo inafanya huduma ya insurance, na tofauti na hivyo. Kwa hiyo kila industry yake ina vigezo vyake vya kuangalia. Although there are some that are popular across all industries, I can list them right here, and you guys can go and spend time in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever platform to learn more about these. Number 1 inaitwa price to earnings ratio. Number 2 inaitwa price to book ratio. Number 3 inaitwa return on equity. Number 4 inaitwa dividend yield. These are the 4 things that I generally look at for pretty much any company out there. That's how there's different factors depending on the bank, also depending on the industry you're looking at, which kuzitaja zote, I only know the banking sector. I'm learning about manufacturing and kind of, I know the banking sector and investment companies. I'm learning about manufacturing and the other one, so I don't know which factors you look at there, but that's just for you to know. Na pia, for those of you ambao wana kidogo exposure au uelewa kwenye mambo ya finance, especially kama kwa upande wa crypto na forex, please note I did not say technical analysis. Kwa msiofahamu, technical analysis ni kuanalyze movements za bei kwenye soko, kuona inavyopanda na kushuka, kuweza kufanya predictions na kuwekeza hivyo. I am not an advocate for short-term investing. That is not my thing. If you want to be a short-term investor, and if you want to apply technical analysis na kufaa, go on that. I am a long-term investor, and technical analysis has a very, very small part in how to play. Technical analysis nayofanya mimi ni kutambua sheria za kila counter, kuona kwamba how much percentage price it can move up or down, and then noting that I can make general long-term investment decisions based on that. Nikupe mfano. Kuna kampuni ambayo sheria za DSE kwa wakati huu inaruhusu bei kupanda au kushuka kwa 5%. Kuna kampuni nyingine ambayo inaruhusiwa kupanda na kushuka kwa 2%. Kuna kampuni zingine ambazo nyingi zinaruhusiwa kupanda na kushuka kwa 15% kwa siku moja. So, if you're someone who is interested in growing your capital aggressively, a company that can rise or fall by 5% or 15% per day is going to be more useful for that goal than a company that can only rise or fall by 2% per day. Lakini kama wewe una mtaji wako, una hela kubwa, unataka kutafuta kampuni ambayo unaweza kuwekeza ili kuweza kuprotect your capital, you're not interested in making as much money as possible, you're interested in maintaining and protecting your capital as your main priority, utachukua hiyo kampuni ambayo inaruhusiwa ku price change to happen 2% per day, because if you don't pay attention for it for 2 weeks, there's very small surprises versus a company that can move like 15% per day. If you go and not pay attention, then come back 1 week later, unaweza kushanga kampuni yako ishashuka like 50% or something crazy. Okay, that's the only technical analysis that I do. You do not need that to be an investor in our markets. Unless you want to be a trader, that's your own personal decision, but for long-term investing, you do not need it. Macroeconomic analysis, sector analysis, and the analysis of the company, which means qualitative and quantitative analysis for that specific company. These 3 levels, you're done. Technical analysis ni kufahamu tu sheria za soko and price movements zinaruhusiweje ili kuweza kuinform the decision you make from these 3. Done. Hapa ambao mliuliza hii swali ambao ni Emmanuel na Peter, nimejibu swali yenu kikamilifu before I move on to the next person. Emmanuel ka confirm, Peter nadhani yuko mbali. Sawa. Next up we have in Tanzania. Oh, Peter karibu. Naona umenyosha mkono, karibu. Okay, sawa, basi you can type whatever you need to type in the chat if the microphone is becoming an issue. Hapa swali inayofuata ni kwamba in Tanzania, what can someone do to get proper advice to start investing? Naomba niwaambie kitu kimoja. And this is more of I guess a personal frustration. When you want to learn anything, you will always pay in 2 things. You will always pay in either money or you will pay in time. What do I mean? You can teach yourself a lot of things these days. Kwa sababu YouTube, AI, courses, vitabu, and then you can teach yourself a lot of things these days for pretty much free. Changamoto na kujifunza vitu kwa bure ni kwa sababu it is not something that someone has put together to create a straight path for you to get from A to B. So unakuta kwamba you will wind up having to review, for example, let's say you need 10 hours of education to learn a specific thing. You will need to go through 50, 80, 100, 200 hours of random bits and pieces out there, okay, to get that 10 hours that you need to do the thing. Sawa. Sasa, so the question is, do you value your time? If your time is less valuable than money, go the free route. And then the free route, nakwambia utazunguka sana. If you value your time and you want to get correct advice that touches to the point, that touches your specific situation, that covers everything you need to know from A to B, you will need to pay. Kuna watu wengi wanaingia hapa mtandaoni wanaona kwamba these people are charging this much to teach this much, nini za scam, za tapeli. Fine, learn for free. And then you see how many months or weeks or months that takes you. Me personally, I've spent 14, close to 15 million shillings over the last like 3 years, and probably hundreds of hours just talking to people, learning about this, listening to people, attending classes and blah, 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 to get to where I am right now. So likewise for you, if you want to get proper advice and start for this, you want someone who has put in the time and knowledge, ideally practically. Don't be so big on like, okay, someone has to have like certifications and this. Do they help? Sure, hatukatai. But practical experience is where you want to focus most of your input from. And then when you have that person, ask as many questions as you can. Yani jaribu kuuliza maswali ya kuweza kumchenga hapa na pale, and then you see how they respond. If you don't know what to ask, go to ChatGPT, go to AI, get that list of questions to generate for you, and then you can ask them those questions, and then then based on how they handle that, you can have an idea if this is someone that is worth listening to or not. And regardless of that, I'm going to be honest, you're probably going to have to pay 3, 4, 5, 10 different people to find someone who is good and gives you what you want. In the same way nyinyi mlivyoenda kufanya hizi skills zenu mnazojifunza, I don't think it was one creator or one YouTube video or one course that taught you everything you needed to know for this. No. There's chances that you went to courses, to videos, to resources, to books from 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 different people. Alafu kapata watu wako hawa, watatu, wawili, watano, wachache ambao hawa wanaweza kuku move forward. Same approach to when it comes to investing here. Go get consultation with 3, 5 different people. Go attend classes of 3, 5 different people. You will process that information. You will understand. You will see who vibes with you and who has the information that you need, and then you go from that route. I personally, shameless plug, have a community that I sell memberships for, where we teach and stuff. There's a beginner's course in there, and I'm in there answering questions, and people kind of teaching each other and helping each other along the way. And that's been how many people that I've helped, approximately, over 500 people, kind of like get their start in buying in shares. And I'm going to pitch that. You guys are here talking to me. I have the spotlight. I'm going to use it shamelessly. But also there's other people online. And then if you kind of like want to reach out to me and I recommend them, sure, I can recommend other different people. I'm not going to force you, oh, this, you have to buy and learn from me. No, I can give you names of 5, 10 different people that you can look up to, and then people that I've spoken to that I know well, that I know teach very well, and they can connect and you can go with them. And you can find out that many people who are in my community tend to be in the same communities with these other people. So I hope I've answered that question. Gracie, can you, I know umenyosha mkono, so can you please type it in the chat, because I'm working on answering other people's questions before I get to you. So the person who asked this question, nishajibu swali yake vizuri au bado kuna issue? Huyu ambaye amesema in Tanzania, what can they do to get proper advice to start investing? Who asked that?
Nafikiri umejibu kiongozi.
Okay, sawa. Tunaenda kwenye swali nyingine. Kuna kipindi watu hawauzi ama kununua hisa. Je, huko mbele inawezekana kwamba ukawa na hisa nyingi unataka kuuza na kununua hamna mauzaji? Is it possible? Yes. Especially depending on how many shares that you want to buy. Kwa sababu unakuta kwamba ndio tunaingia kwenye kipande cha technical analysis, which nisema kwamba ni nafasi kidogo sana, lakini inakuwa muhimu depending on how many shares you're getting into. Kuna counter zingine, kampuni zingine, hisa zao wanauza hisa zaidi ya milioni 1 kwa siku. Kwa maana kwamba people are buying and selling over 1 million shares of this company in a day. Sometimes you get 2, 3, 5 million. Lakini kuna kampuni nyingine ambao unauza kwamba hisa zake zinauzika na kununua kwa kama 500, 700, 1000 kwa siku. Sasa ukiyafanya uamuzi ambayo sio sahihi, unakimbia kwenye kampuni fulani, unaweka pesa kubwa pale, unabahatika kupata supply, umepata mzigo wa hisa 100,000, 200,000. Okay, which is a lot of money regardless of the company that you take, but let's say you got that, okay? Ukitaka kwenda kuviuza, unaweza kuta demand ya hizo hisa ni ndogo kiasi kwamba wewe kuuza hisa zako will take a very long time. Na by the time ukimaliza kuziuza, unaweza kaishia kuziuza kwa hasara because umeweka supply kubwa sokoni, wanunuzi ni wachache. Mwisho wa siku mwenyewe unaishia kushusha bei ya hizo hisa ambazo ulipandisha kununua mwenyewe. It's possible, it happens. However, when you buy good, reputable, strong companies, demand kuweza kuuza ipo. Kuna kampuni zingine ambao ni rahisi kununua, rahisi kuuza, kwa maana kwamba it's very active both ways. Kuna kampuni zingine ambao ni ngumu kununua kwa sababu watu wengi wanaitaka, la rahisi kuuza kwa sababu walioshikilia wengi wanataka kushikilia hizo hisa kiasi kwamba mtu akija kuviuza demand sharp zinaisha haraka. Alafu kuna kampuni zingine ambazo unakuta kwamba ni ngumu kununua, ngumu kuuza, au rahisi kununua, ngumu kuuza. You want to avoid those companies. So yes, can it happen? Yes, depending on the companies that you choose. And also the possibility of that happening is less over time kwa sababu soko letu limechangamka sana na kuna policies na vitu ambavyo wanafanya ili kuweza kuchangamsha soko, kupunguza hiyo changamoto. But yes, it can happen. Next up we have this question. Huyu ambaye aliuliza kuhusu kuuza na kununua, nimeshajibu swali yako vizuri?
Asante, yes, nimeelewa.
Okay, nashukuru sana. Moving on to the next one. Ni kwamba how are we still owners if the company already IPO'd? How do we benefit from the shares? Naamini nimesummarize hivyo. Naamini kwamba huyu hapa alikuwa na swali au amepata changamoto kwenye hiyo issue ya the original owners of the company kuuza hisa zao na sisi hapa kununuana wenyewe kwa wenyewe, like how do they benefit from that? Kumbuka kwamba hisa is a sign of umiliki. Sawa? So whether that hisa, yani ni kama tuseme like a game of like that metaphor will give people the wrong idea. Tuseme kwamba hisa, mtu yote anayeshika hisa ni miliki wa hiyo kampuni. So the original owners selling it, whoever they sell those shares to, the person who has those shares is an owner of the company. Mimi hapa nikimuuzia Rose, Rose is the owner of the company. Rose akimuuzia Peter, Peter is the owner of the company. Peter akimuuzia Violet, Violet is the owner of the company. Violet akimuuzia Teresia, Teresia is the owner of the company. Teresia akiniuzia mimi tena kwa sababu nirudi kununua, I am the owner of the company. Okay. So in the same way wewe ukienda kusajili kampuni BRELA, sawa? Si lazima waelezee kwenye articles of association kwamba mmiliki wa kampuni ni nani. You can go there and change that kwa BRELA kwa kampuni yako private. It is possible. Kwa hiyo ownership changing hands from the original owners to the public and then the public exchanging it among themselves is perfectly fine and normal. It happens, it's natural, it's nothing to be worried about. Sasa, how does the company benefit from that after that? Kwa wenzetu nje Amerikani huko hasa, unakuta kwamba many CEOs or the leadership of a company are paid in a certain amount of stock. For those of you who are like remote freelancers, mtakuwa mnaelewa. Kwa mfano kama Google or these tech companies, if you become an employee there, unaweza kusema kwamba we can pay you $100,000 in cash, alafu $300,000 inakuwa in company stock. Sawa? That is possible. Na nakuta kwamba if you're someone who owns company stock, if you're management of a company ya nini, wewe mwenyewe decisions that you're taking, you're going to have decisions in mind to improve the price of the stock, because if you're given like 100 shares of a company and each share is worth $2, you would be paid more if you manage to make the company shares worth $5. That's how it is nje ya nchi, which honestly has its problems. Hapa Tanzania hatuna mfumo huo ya compensation, kwa maana kwamba everyone in many cases wanalipa mshahara kama mshahara. Ukitaka kununua hisa ununua kama mwenyewe kwa hiari yako, but it's not part of your payment package. Okay, so the company, how do they benefit from the shares if many of them in that company do not own those shares? Okay, they benefit from the sense of PR and press. Sawa. When you become a top performing company in the exchange, hiyo ni sifa ambayo inaweza kukusaidia biashara yako along the lines. Fikiria kama wewe una biashara alafu unataka kwenda kufunga deal na tuseme kama na serikali ya nje au tuseme serikali ya nje. Okay, you can, if you go there and you say that, hey, we are a company that is public, that is valued at X trillion shillings, that is like the biggest company on our stock exchange, hiyo inakupa sifa zaidi kuweza kuclose hiyo deal versus mtu ambao hana hiyo sifa. Pili, una transparency zaidi. If you're dealing with a public company financials are required to be public by law. Kwa sababu hiyo ni wanatakiwa kutangaza kwenye magazeti, utaona watu na share PDFs online na nini, the mahesabu ya company, the company books. So with this level of transparency, it is able to invite people to become partners of that company, which helps them on the business side of things. So there's an incentive there for them to be public as well, in the form of publicity, in the form of being able to access deals as a public company, in the form of having more transparency, which can make those deals easier to get. Okay? So that's how they benefit from going public, even if hizo hisa ambazo sisi hapo tunatradeana wenyewe kwa wenyewe, hawanufaiki baada ya hapo. Nimejibu swali ya huyu mtu?
Yeah, nashukuru.
Ndio.
Lakini bado nina swali hapo hapo.
Karibu.
Does it mean mtaji ule mara ya kwanza ina maana kwamba ndo mtaji wanaozungusha sisi wakipata faida na sisi ndo tunapata hiyo dividend kutoka kwao?
Ndio, ikifanya vizuri ndio.
Okay, sawa, nashukuru.
Okay, sawa. After this, if you still want to kind of ask and formulate your question, let me know. Lakini nadhani kama bado sijaelewa vizuri what exactly point you're getting at au una hofu sehemu gani. So let me know. It's an interesting question. I'll figure it out. I'll think on it and give you an answer later after this.
Okay, sawa, nashukuru.
Okay, karibu sana. Hapa naendelea kwenye swali hapa. Alice aliuliza, mimi swali langu ni kuwa mimi nimeanza kuwekeza kwenye hisa mwaka huu. Je, ni makosa gani beginners wanafanya ambayo walitakiwa kuzingatia? Aha. Kumbuka especially kipindi hiki. Narudia tena point yangu niliyoelezea. Price tells you nothing about a stock.
Vai, what happened? Mbona tumsikii Victor?
Hello.
Hello Victor, hello.
Nanisikia?
Nakusikia Victor.
Yes.
Yeah, basi tunaangaza maisha yao, wamefanya mambo yao. Sasa, I am back. I'm going to be doing this with my camera off gizani. Hello? Hello?
Tunakusikia. Tunakusikia Victor.
Sorry, like my connection is a little bit shaky kwa sababu hapa mtu akinipigia simu tu. Let me put on do not disturb on my mobile phone, mobile hotspot. Okay, sawa. Basi the show must go on. Hapa nanikumbusha man, like it was so annoying having this happen during client calls. Umeme unakatika alafu then you have to. Anyway, back to this. Nilikuwa na swali la Alice. Alice hapa nisema kwamba kumbuka nimesema point before hapa kwamba price tells you nothing about a stock, na watu wengi hisa hasa kipindi hiki wanaingia kununua hisa kwa sababu wanaona hisa bei zinapanda. So they have fear of missing out. They are jumping into buying any company. Okay. Again, kama nilivyosema, unanunua kiwanja bila kuitembelea na kuiona kwanza. Just because unaona kwamba bei ya eneo fulani inapanda, unaingia tu unanunua mzima. So you jump in because you're expecting the price to go up. Some people manage to do so at the right time and they make profit from it. Although other people, it will eventually happen, if it hasn't already happened, will find themselves holding bad companies that nobody wants to buy at prices that nobody is interested in. So kwa kipindi hiki, people who are getting in because of the hype and the price, that is a mistake that beginners are making right now. Ikiwa kwamba hawatafuti mtu kuweza kuwapa elimu, kuwapa msaada, kuwapa advice, na ikiwa wanatafuta mtu ambao who's been doing it practically, kuwashauri vizuri ili waweze kuepuka hiyo kosa. Kosa ya kwanza ni hiyo. Kosa ya pili ni kuingia hiyo bila maarifa, which is kind of connected to the first one, that you're kind of going in without knowing what you're doing just because you have fear of missing out. Kosa ya tatu, watu wengi wanaingia wakiwa na mawazo kwamba hisa ni kitu cha haraka, kwa maana kwamba unaweka 100,000 leo, unapata 1,500,000, 200,000 yako next week, unasonga. Let me be very clear that kind of game, you are essentially gambling. You're just doing a fancier form of gambling. And Kama mnaofanya betting hapo mnajua kuna kupata na kuna kukosa. Uzuri ni kwamba huku ukikosa, you don't lose all of your money. But losing money is painful, and as general piece of advice, losing money is very bad because not only do you lose that money, you lose the time and effort it took to make it. So whenever you're going to invest, one of the major considerations you should have is point number 1, research. Point number 2, safety of capital. Kwa maana kwamba wewe pesa zako ziko mahali salama where the risk of loss is very, very low. And then kitu cha tatu mwishoni unazingatia returns unazotaka. Okay? So kwa haraka hayo ndo makosa beginners wengi wanafanya, ile kutotafuta maarifa au msaada from someone who knows what they're doing, ikiwa just kuangalia bei tu na kuingia na mawazo ya short term, kuuza leo wanunue, yani kununua leo wauze kesho. Alice, naamini nimejibu swali yako. Next up we have Pascal asking what is ETF and elaborate it, and are they safe to buy? Sasa ETF ni kifupi cha exchange traded fund, ambayo kama nilivyosema mfano wa mutual fund ni mfuko ambao unaweza kutoa, kama kwa mfano UTT wanauza vipande vyao moja kwa moja kwao, unaenda kwa UTT kuvinunua, au unaweza iTrust unaweza kwenda kwao moja kwa moja kuvinunua. Exchange traded fund ni fund ambayo unaweza kainunua kwenye soko la hisa, kwa maana kwamba you can buy it on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. It is traded on the exchange, so it is an e-exchange T traded fund. Are they safe to buy? It depends on what's in the fund, kwa sababu fund ni mchanganyiko ya assets mbalimbali, so you have to read about the ETF, what is inside of that fund, in the same way ukinunua hata inawezekana wengi imepeleka hela UTT bila kuelewa hiyo fund inawekeza kwenye nini. Fuatilieni mjue. So you find out what's in that ETF, what it invests in, and then you can make the decision on whether you can buy it or not. So the safety, are they safe in essence? Are they run by reputable companies? Yes, but are they safe in the sense that the things that they're investing in are good? That's more of a subjective question. So fuatilia ulewe ETF ina nini na nini ndani mwake, alafu unaweza kupata jibu. Hiyo hapo hata bila kuuliza nishaijibu vizuri. Next up we have this swali la Gracie. Mimi sina swali, ila natamani kushare na wenzangu kwa kuwa mimi pia ni investor, nilianza 2021. Wonderful. Kitu tunachotaka kuasistizia beginners, invest on yourself kwanza. Sasa hivi kuna CFEs wengi, no excuse, that is true. Natamani kuwatia moyo wale ambao bado wana sita. Hata mimi nilianza kwa kusita, lakini nilipoelewa sijawahi kujutia. Wonderful. Mimi niko kwenye full time job, lakini kilichonifanya niingie huku kwenye hii freelancing ni kutafuta kipato cha ziada ili niweze kuinvest aggressively kwenye hisa. That is a wonderful thing, Gracie. Hongera sana kwa hiyo kitu. Na kwenye swala la kuingia kwenye freelancing kuweza kupata kipato cha ziada, I also had similar motivations when I was getting into this, because I wanted to make more money, because I would have more money to invest, and more money to invest in hello, was I gone for a few seconds?
Yeah, we lost you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's because the electricity is back and I was switching back to Wi-Fi. Yeah, so I was saying Gracie, I started my own freelancing journey for very similar reasons, because I wanted to have extra money that I could save and invest aggressively to build the life that I wanted to afford, financially speaking. I am 5 years into that journey and things are going pretty well, nashukuru Mungu. So what you're saying also mirrors the path that I've had. Na napenda kwamba unawasisitizia watu waende kupata maarifa kwanza, to invest in yourself, ikiwa investing in your education, investing in your own mind, and knowledge and ability to make decisions, because that's what's going to be the real biggest money maker in the long run. And you're perfectly right about that. Thank you for sharing your experience with that, Gracie. Twende kwa swali la Peter. Na je, kwa upande wa qualitative na hold on. that's that off, and then I think I can have my camera on again. Yep. Heyo. Yeah. So kwa upande wa qualitative na quantitative analysis, what factors do you look at? So quantitative analysis are those ratios which differ depending on the industry. So there's the general ones: price to earnings, price to book, return on equity, dividend yield. However, there's various ones depending on the industry that you're looking at. So if you're looking for manufacturing industries, which I'm learning more about, you're kind of interested in cash flow and debt ratios. If you're looking for banking sector, you're looking for things like loan deposit ratio, asset growth, deposits growth, and so on. If you're looking at things such as like service companies, like, I don't know, Vodacom and Swissport, I think you want to look more into, this is me just guessing, I'm not familiar with these industries. I've just heard people having conversations about it. Wanasema, like, you want to care about like capital expenditures and kind of like investments into equipment and how that impacts the financials. Kwa upande wa qualitative, there's a few factors that you want to look at. You want to look at market position and dominance. I'll give an example. There's 2 banks in this country that operate and own over 50% of the banking sector in terms of market share. So if you have someone who is a dominant position rather than a smaller player, you know that they're safer for the long term to invest in rather than a smaller company. It's the same idea of, like, for example, if you want to invest in the tech sector, investing in Apple and Microsoft is probably going to be a safer bet than investing in a smaller tech company, because between Microsoft owning basically all the PC sector and then Apple owning the people who aren't on the PC side of things, between those 2 companies pretty much have a lot of control over the tech sector. So it's the kind of similar idea. So market share and dominance. Number 2, you look at the nature of the business itself. Kuna biashara zingine ambazo, kwa mfano, nitoe mfano hapa, it's not a public company, lakini kampuni ya kama Azam Bakresa, kwa sababu wanatengeneza maji, wanatengeneza unga ngano, wanatengeneza sukari, wanatengeneza vitu mbalimbali ambao Mtanzania mahitaji kila siku anapata. It's because then you know that company, uchumi ikifanya vizuri, ikifanya vibaya, watu bado watahitaji kula, watahitaji kunywa maji, watahitaji kupata haya mahitaji ya msingi. Kwa hiyo unakuta kwamba hiyo industry, whether the economy is up or down, is going to be doing fine regardless. So you look at, like, for example, what do they call it? Like resilience, or the type of nature of the business and kind of the benefits that come from it. If you have a company ambao nyingine inaweza kutegemea hali ya uchumi, tuseme kama it's in something that is like more of a luxury spending sector, like for example, higher end restaurants, or you might find travel agencies and nini, unakuta kwamba those ones, if the economy is doing well, they're doing well. If the economy is doing poorly, they're doing poorly. So you have to understand the nature of the business itself and the challenges that come with it. You have to understand any unique market advantages. I'm mostly in the financial sector, so I can give you a few examples from there. There's like one bank ambayo ina process mishahara na malipo ya wafanyakazi wa serikali, so that gives it a guaranteed certain amount of not only accounts and deposits but also transaction fees and so on. Kuna benki nyingine ambayo unakuta kwamba wao wana matawi nje ya nchi, which means they have more stability in terms of like income, kiasi kama uchumi wa hapa sehemu fulani kisumbua, kuna money from other sectors ambazo zinaweza kusaidia ku maintain profits in that business. Kuna another case of another investment company that owns a lot of shares in a specific company that are doing very, very well and good for capital preservation in the long term. Kwa unakuta kwamba katika investment companies, wow, they're going to be performing more consistently versus another one that does not have as many of those shares. Another example is, like, you want to look at the last performance for the last 3 years, kwa sababu you might find a company has done very well in 1 year, lakini miaka ya nyuma imefanya vibaya, au unaweza kuta kampuni imefanya vibaya in 1 year, you're looking at that and you're like, I don't like what I'm seeing. Lakini ukiangalia over the last kind of like few years, you might see either declining performance, you might see they might be having a tough year. Na vitu vingine ni kutumia tu akili yako. Kwa mfano kama 2020 kipindi cha COVID, we all lived through that. We know what that time was. Kwa hiyo kama kipindi cha COVID ukiangalia financials za kampuni unaona kama haijafanya vizuri, angalia before and after ilikuwaje, mazingira kawaida ilikuwaje. So that's for qualitative, to give you some ideas of things to look at. Hapa Monica Msuya kauliza, how do we get to be part of the community, at least to begin with? For joining the community, I need you guys to message me. Oh gosh, this is going out on recording, so I have to be very careful of which channel I recommend to people. You can go to my Instagram page. My Instagram page at the time of this recording is Wi-Fi Money TZ, WIFIMONEYTZ. I'm in the process of trying to change the name. The name that I'm trying to change to is the Money Guy TZ. So you might find that depending on how far this goes out, like 3 weeks in the future, that might be the name that you find me on Instagram. Go to any of my posts. You can comment community, and then I will have an automation set up to send you details about that community. For the people here on this call, what I'm going to do, I am going to write my phone number here on the chat. And then from this one, you will DM me on WhatsApp the name community, and I can send you details. Send community on WhatsApp, and I will DM you details on how to join and get involved. So it's gonna list all the benefits and whatever. For those of you who are in the chat, please make sure you look at the chat and get the phone number there. And I hope that chat does not appear on YouTube, because I don't want I don't know how many people will see this, but I don't want 1,000 people randomly getting into my WhatsApp thing for the next 5 years. That answers the question from Monica. Now, does anyone else have any question, have any point for me to cover? And that will be the last question that I'll be answering, because it's almost 10 p.m. I have not eaten today. I am hungry. I need to go eat. And I think that's also going to be the end of our time here. So anyone who has one more question, karibuni kuuliza. I will give you a very long and thorough answer, using up all the time, because you know I like to talk and help you out.
Mi nina swali moja la mwisho, by the way.
Karibu.
Okay. Nilikuwa nauliza, kwa mfano kama wewe umesema umewahi kufanya freelancing, copywriter or stuff kama hivyo. Nilikuwa nauliza kama umewahi kupokea labda pesa kupitia hizi account za kupokea USD, Euro and all the stuffs. Kwa mfano Gray, Binance, Pioneer, vitu kama hivyo. Umewahi kutumia labda directly kutumia US dollars kununua hisa bila kuexchange kwenda kwenye T-shillings? Kwa sababu naona labda makato and all the stuff, tunajaribu kupunguza hizi expenses za kutoa.
Aha, okay, sawa. Sasa kwa swali yako nitajibu swali mbili. Ya kwanza is kama ulivyouliza how to buy USD directly. Ya pili is like how did I personally sort out my payment processing issue, which I know you guys are using Gray and so on, and I don't know if you need another alternative, maybe the option I'm about to present will also work. Kwa swala la kununua hisa kwa USD haiwezekani, kwa sababu kila hisa inauzwa in Tanzanian shilling prices. Therefore, no matter what you do, you will have to convert that money from USD into Tanzanian shillings to go and make that purchase. Now, the recommendation that I have, if you are someone who gets consistently about $2,000 per month plus, okay? Consistent meaning coming into the country. Inawezekana kwamba mnaweka ibaki kwenye account zenu or whatever, but you have like $2,000 that you're cashing out consistently in the country. Na shauri kwamba mwendeni kwenye benki. Benki inaweza kawa CRDB, inaweza kawa NMB, inaweza kawa Equity, inaweza kawa whatever. Go to a bank, omba kuongea na mtu wao wa Treasury au wa branch manager. Ikiwa kwamba ukaa naye na uombe kwamba mimi hapa naingiza dola kadhaa kila mwezi, can you guys give me a special rate? Many of these banks will agree to that. Kiasi kwamba you can get a favorable rate so that you're losing less money on fees when it comes to exchange. Alice, naona umenyosha mkono. If you have anything to say, please say it in the chat, because this is the last question that I'm taking for the day. Thank you so much. So when you go to the bank and you talk to them, they can give you a preferable exchange rate ambayo inaweza kawa better than what you'd get on normal things. And in some cases, some banks might even be able to give you like contractual terms. Like for the next for the next like 3 months, you can have a fixed rate of kiasi for flani for this USD that you decide to change for that time. So that is an actual facility out there. Again, there's no way around it. You have to get your money into shillings. So whatever you decide to get that, whether it's you decide by, okay, USD, you're going to change it through, I don't know, whatever remittance platform you want to use, or you want to change it to go to Binance P2P and then change it into crypto, then crypto to shillings or whatever, or stable coins into shillings, whichever method you do, find the one that gives you like the best rate in general and then stick to that, because there's no way to buy these shares in Tanzania. There's no way to buy shares of Tanzanian stocks in any currency other than the Tanzanian shilling. Don't make the mistake, or not the mistake, but don't go the route of sending money from a USD account to your broker unless you have confirmation from your broker that they have some kind of arrangement to get you a fixed rate. Many brokers, some brokers don't necessarily have too many clients who are sending money from outside of the country. So you sending by USD might be the only one who does that. So they might not have special rates for anything in that nature. But if you go to a bigger broker, they might have an arrangement that you can talk to them and see where you can kind of like do the best with your exchange rate and then go from there. Hiyo ndo swali ya kwanza ambayo uliouliza. Swali ambayo hujauliza mimi nataka kuongezea hapo ni payment processing in many cases can be a headache for a lot of people. If Gray is giving you a good experience, you can stick to Gray by all means, but I'm not familiar with how flexible it is, because you have issues with sometimes some like freelancing platforms, maybe you're being paid by a client or whatever the case may be. I have stopped all my copywriting activities. However, I still do have a US-based company with access to payment processing for PayPal, for Stripe, for all these kind of payment methods. And if you're in need of someone to help you receive money, send invoices to a client, receive money, and have that transferred to you here in Tanzania, you can get in touch with me. My phone number is there in the chat. I'm not gonna mention it publicly. My phone number is there in the chat. Make sure you go read it and save it. Or you can ask Baraka after this or Violet after this to get you my contact details. And then we can negotiate something for a certain fee. So basically, send an invoice to the client pays that invoice by PayPal or Stripe, whatever platform they're comfortable with. I have that money in my USD account, in my US-based account, send that money to you here, and you have an alternative route for payment processing if you have a platform or a method that's not working quite well for you. Gray should probably sort out most of your needs. For those of you who somehow don't fall into that bucket, I can help you out that way. So that is the last question I was answering. Here we have 2 minutes. Alice, hopefully you make up on your computer, on your phone. Can you please unmute yourself in the next 5 seconds, ask your question, and see if I can answer it quickly. Karibu.
Samani, mada ya leo ilikuwa ni jinsi ya kufanya uwekezaji kwenye hisa na stock. Sawa?
Ndio.
Ila mimi nimejiunga kwenye community ya Mr. Baraka kwa ajili ya najua watu wengi wameulizia kuhusu hisa, najua lakini pia nilikuwa natamani kujua kwa upande wa sisi ambao ndo tunaanza kujifunza freelancing, kama ulivyosema soko ilivyofika 2025 hizi online jobs kidogo AI ikawa yani kama imecover sana tofauti na hizi watu wengi ambao labda alikuwa anakupa utranscript na nili yake au ufanye chochote. Sasa hivi GPT anafanya kila kitu. Kwa hiyo unatushauri nini sisi ambao ndo tunajifunza, ambao hata wengine hatujaanza bado tunaendelea kuangalia utaratibu? Jana tumejifunza kuhusu accounts za kutengeneza, yani bado tunajaribu kuelewa. Najua tupo kama yani najua tupo, wengine najua wapo tayari huko wamezianza, ila wengine bado tunajaribu kuelewa. So yani natamani kuelewa kwa upande wa huko kidogo, yani hata ningepata explanation kidogo kwamba gusia hapa au gusia pale hivyo.
Okay, sawa. I can tell you what I have done personally. Although in my case, and okay, this is like last question. I'm probably gonna spend 10 minutes answering this because he inagusia people's futures. I personally was made redundant by AI. I don't want to go back. Because I spent like 6 months trying to find cold pitching businesses, applying to jobs, and that whole grind, and just nothing was picking up. And also, if I look at the US economy as a whole, I am hearing and seeing reports of lots of people losing their jobs in general. So it might just be a bad environment, not only a bad environment, but yes, there's opportunities in a bad environment, but I also got unlucky, or maybe I did not stick into it long enough to get to any opportunities that are available in that bad environment, whatever the case may be. I took the skills that I was using to work remotely, which is copywriting, which is basically a form of sales. And the thing that I did from that is that I took that skill of sales and I used it to basically do what I do today, which is offering financial education. So if you see my content online and you're wondering like, wait, why does this content kind of like sound and look differently from other people? That's because I'm using my own copywriting skills to create scripts, to come up with hooks and angles and ideas to sell something, which is what financial education that I am doing right now. How did I set up on financial education? It's something that I've been passionate about for a very long time. It's something that I was actually teaching for free for my friends and trying to bully them into buying shares. And they're so damn stubborn. Yani, kutoa vitu vya bure yani havithamaniki I say. Kwa hiyo hata people say, why you charging? I'm gonna keep charging because people for free mnakera sana. I did that for a while. A friend told me like, hey, stop doing this for free. You've been doing this for a very long time. Open a social media page, go at it. So I use my own copywriting and marketing skills from there, combined with social media to sell with something that I know and I'm good at to kind of make a living today. That's how I make my living. I'm a full-time person doing all this stuff now. So if you're getting into this industry, I highly recommend you go after a skill that you could use in your own, if you decide to launch your own business and later down the line. Anything involving in sales and marketing is an obvious choice, because even if you might not find gigs, sales and marketing for people outside of the country, you can find sales for gigs and marketing inside of the country with clients here, although they won't pay as well. Or you can use your own sales and marketing skills to sell something of your own, which basically means you write your own paycheck. And so far, I'm thankful that at least for the last kind of like 3-ish, 4-ish months, finally, I'm making about as much as I used to make in copywriting from doing that here. If you're going to do into things like transcription or like subtitling or like those skills that aren't either related to code or to like social media, it can be very difficult to figure out what to do once AI, assuming AI eventually gets you. It's not going to get every industry, but assuming AI eventually gets you, it's going to be difficult to figure out, how do I use transcription skills to make money in the local market? How do I use subtitling skills to get clients and do that work here? You can get that stuff here. It's not going to be paying very well. So I highly recommend you get a marketable skill or like a marketing skill. Okay. It can be the forms of video, it can be the forms of like audio, it can be the forms of writing, in the forms of whatever, but have a social media component to it. And then number 2, find something you can sell. You can sell your own things, which means you can have like, I don't know if you're whatever you're passionate about. You might be passionate about like food products and weight loss. That's something you could build a business around here, giving trainings around. You might be passionate about I don't know, fitness and exercising. You can build a business around that here. You might be passionate about parenting and psychology and children. You can build a business around that, because hata hapa Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, nimeona kuna watu ambao wana charge classes kuhusu parenting 200,000 shillings per seat. They're sold out and they do that like every month. Kuna mtu anafanya mafunzo kuhusu gardening ya kilimo, ana shamba, anawita watu pale like 150,000 shillings for like a day. He gets 10, 15, 20 people, good money. You have people who have, in my case, I have a community with like, 500 people. Mtaona charges ambao mkinitafuta for what the pricing is. You can do the rough math in your head and see how that pays out. So find a marketing skill that you can add on top of what you know. Find something that you can sell. And ideally, that's going to be your backup against AI, because people will still need services, especially in this country. They still need products and services, and selling those, it's either going to take a very long time for AI to come and ruin that, which gives you time to raise money, save, invest, and get your own financial independence. But do I have a very clean and neat answer for how do you handle AI when you're going into remote work? I don't, because I have like 5 years of copywriting experience. I have like a portfolio, I have all sorts of things, and I washed out. I couldn't cut it. I'm not saying that you can't make it. I'm not saying you can't do well. I'm not saying you can't rise above AI, because there's still certain things that AI is still not good enough quite to do, but it's improving every year. So the opportunity, it's a bit threatened over time. But you will need to pivot. Those of you who are working online, you'll probably find this trend over the course of your career. It's going to, and it's happening in general across the globe. Very rarely is someone going to be doing the same thing for more than 10 years, even more than 5. Personally, if you look at me, I was a photographer, then a videographer, then a documentary filmmaker, then a communications manager, then a copywriter, and then now a financial educator. Ever since what, 2014? So 12 years. I've had 6 different like skills / career changes. So you will also have to maintain an adaptable mindset, such that what you're doing to make money today might not exist tomorrow and the day after. So it's very good to make sure you have your savings and money aside, however much you can. Kama ni kujibana na kujinyima, sawa, kubali hiyo kitu, so that whenever worst comes to worst, you have money to survive for at least 1 year. 2, you have the mindset kwa kuweza kuwa mtafutaji and find something different to do to make you money, because at the end of the day, the people who are going to survive are the people who are willing to adapt. If you're not willing to adapt, you're going to fall behind, die out, and struggle. I'm sorry, that's just the unfortunate truth about it. Sorry, I don't have a neater or cleaner answer. Alice, does that answer your question? Alice is typing, okay. She says, yes, asante. Okay. So with that, that is everything from me. I have shared my phone number in the chat because I'm trying to hide it from from YouTube and so on. You guys can reach out for community to get more information about that. On social media, you might find me as the Money Guy TZ on TikTok. Currently, also Wi-Fi Money TZ on Instagram, although I'm in the middle of a name change. That might be different depending on when you see this. Wishing you guys a fantastic day. Please, please, please make sure you use the opportunity that you have, because you're in a very unique position to take advantage of geographical arbitrage, earning in USD, living in Tanzania. Maximize that gap, save, invest that money, such that whatever happens in the future, whether it's AI or whatever, you guys are going to be set. And hopefully you have 5 good years, if not 10 good years, to become wealthy and reach billionaire shilling status. I'm not there yet. I'm chasing there as well, because my career kind of got cut short by AI. But I hope everyone here has maximum longevity, maximum money. Consider having business models that target people outside the country. So whether that's opening an agency, having info products, or whatever kind of things, figure that out, make your money, park it into good assets. That'll protect you for the long term. That's everything from me. My name is Victor Mutta. Thank you guys for the time for the last 2 hours. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Victor.
Asante sana Victor, tunakushukuru.
Asante.
Asante Victor.
Karibuni jamani.
Okay guys, na hapo tutakuwa tumemaliza event yetu ya siku ya leo. Asanteni kwa kushiriki.
Thank you, bye.
Karibu.